Welcome back, sports fans. My predictions were spot on for the Australian GP. We had a beautiful, absolutely stunning race by Norris. He finished position 5, just like I called it. Leclerc, unstoppable. Like, there was just literally unstoppable. I think if somebody went and tried to shoot out his tires, the gun would just jam right there because that's how good Leclerc is.
He was looking real good
Yeah.
on the Sunday.
Beautiful, beautiful. And it was awesome to see double podiums from a couple of teams. And by a couple, I mean uh, Mercedes and McLaren. But it was a good race. It was a clean-ish race. Nothing too insane happened. Juan called it boring. He texted me at 2 a.m. and said yawn when it was over. I
Yeah.
enjoyed watching it, but what were your thoughts on it?
I enjoyed it. But it was just not a crazy race that we're just so used to. Pretty nutty. I would say since last season, even things were just pretty crazy overall. And so this race was a miss for me, but I think it was still a pretty decent race.
Yeah, no, I really enjoyed watching the DRS train that was like 8th through 13th place. Like for a bunch of laps, they were all very close together, just one after the other, trading positions. I think when people started going to the pits, then it really spread out. But other than that, it was a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun watching it, and I was awake for it, which is even more exciting. It didn't happen at 3 in the morning.
It
It
was
happened at 1 in the morning.
it was funny. I was at the bar watching this on my
Yeah.
phone.
There you go, man. Shout out to Formula One on your phone. But if we're gonna get into the race a little bit, we can talk about the Red Bull start. Max and Perez. Perez had a blistering start and got boxed out by Max. And I wouldn't even call it boxed out, but Max took his position and Perez just had to back off or he would have bumped into Max and that would have been the end of their race already.
And unfortunately, that did open up the door for Lewis Hamilton to just kind of sneak in and take that position from Perez. Eventually, Perez did overtake him, but I mean, that could have been time that he was, fighting up there at the front, maybe.
And again, with Red Bull, we can talk about their quality control or lack of it. It's just two DNFs in the three races to start. That is terrible. And they have the pace, they have the power, but what they don't have is the consistency. And what was it on lap 39 he went out?
Yeah, so lap 39, he retired, turned off the car. He said he smelled some fluids in his car, so turned it off. And I think what this has done is really put Red Bull in a really bad position because now they've given these points essentially because they've been at the front. They've given these podiums to Mercedes, and now they're behind on the constructors' championship.
Yeah, and it's a shame. Thankfully, it's a really long season this year. They have 20 more races to go, unless one of them gets kicked out for whatever reason. If somebody starts a war. Hopefully that doesn't happen anymore. But good, continuing on from it, Sainz, Carlos Sainz, you predicted him P1, and he had a terrible weekend.
Yeah, he was not doing well. It was probably a weekend to forget for him. It wasn't fun. He had a bad start, bad qualifying. Immediately at the start of the race, he fell a few positions. I think it was around 5, and he just couldn't recover from that. And lap 2 comes around. The race is still basically just started. He spins out and beaches the car. So just overall, a pretty poor performance for Sainz.
Oh, if you watch the video really close, he goes in for an overtake. A really aggressive overtake on a fast corner, and turns in trying to overtake on the outside, which I'm sure the Ferrari can do. And he has to immediately snap back in order to prevent the spin. And he goes straight through the turn onto the grass, into the gravel backwards. And like you said, yeah, he beached it. The
Yeah, I
tires
know there was
sank in
somebody that I
so
think that
fast.
almost hit him, right? Like he like spun out and he's like just going backwards on the racing line,
I
and
think it was
someone like
Alfa Romeo.
yeah, somebody just barely missed him. So that's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it was bad, and that is extremely frustrating. I feel like he was trying to do too much with too little room, too little time.
Yeah.
If he was more patient, I feel like he could definitely be within the top 10 right now.
I think he was worried about that DRS train that ended up happening. A lot of the midfield ended up just kind of staying packed together because of that DRS train.
Well,
Uh,
and another big issue with signs, I feel like, especially with the bad start, was the starting on hard compound tires. The hard
yeah.
tires this year have terrible starts. The heat does not get into him fast enough while everybody's taking off on mediums, which seem to be the king of racing right now.
Hmm.
Those hards just dug him into a hole, and then when he tried to make it up, he just could not find the grip.
Yeah. Charles, on the other hand, cool, calm, collective, doing a really good job, getting pole, getting fastest lap, and taking the win. A grand slam for Charles. Ferrari still looking extremely strong, despite Sainz's issues. I would say that was maybe more on the driver's side than it was on the car side, because clearly that car is capable of winning.
Yeah, well, he's got a long season left. Leclerc has not made a single mistake this whole time. I mean, in qualifying, he looks like an animal out there. He could be taking a nap behind the driver's seat. We would never know because
Yeah,
it's just, I mean, it's like on autopilot. It feels like.
absolutely. And speaking of the cars, they honestly look so good in the daylight. So this is our first kind of daylight race, and so it was really nice to see them. And I think it was kind of a sunset race, but it looked so nice. It looked so cool. So I'm jealous of everyone that's going to get to see them in person this year.
And the Australian GP was not without its series of safety cars. Very, very bad crash. Turn four with Vettel. He caused a red flag. They cleaned that one up pretty quick. I was surprised. But other than that, we're not very happy with the safety car, and I'm sure we'll talk about that more later. But that Aston Martin really has been getting shit on in the races and in the safety cars.
I'm calling it now. I think this is going to be his last season. I don't think he's going to survive another season, especially since he said before that he's not in Formula One to just race. He wants to win, and if this car is this bad and just this hard to control, because he's not a bad driver, and so to experience this, I think he's out of it this season.
Yeah,
And
we'll
I think they're
see.
going to look at a replacement as well.
I think they're gonna have to get really lucky in order to get some points this year,
Yeah.
especially some decent points. They're not looking as bad as Williams. Well, I don't know.
They're down there with them though.
They're down there.
They're the
Well,
new
they're down there
Haas.
with Latifi, yeah, but they're definitely struggling. They're keeping up the back markers this year.
Russell got a podium this race, which was pretty awesome to see because the Mercedes have been there to capitalize from when Ferrari or Red Bull mess up. That's when they've been on the podium, and so the fact that Russell was there, it's looking really good for him. I think I had lower expectations for him this season. I think he's going to do really well this season. He's been consistently there with Lewis Hamilton.
And we've been shitting on him a lot, but he had a great drive. Russell throughout these three races so far has just been a rock. And he's
Absolutely.
been outpacing Hamilton. Hamilton's porpoising has been bad. Russell porpoises a little bit, but I think they're just trying to tweak the downforce right now, and it's not working out. It's burning through tires. It's messing up a lot of different parts of the drive, especially speed-wise down the straight.
Yeah.
Nobody's as fast as Red Bull, but Mercedes definitely slow on the straights right now.
McLaren, huge improvement from the last race. We now saw them in fifth and sixth position, which I'm going to be honest, I thought that was going to be their best result of the season. I mean, maybe this is the best result of their season, but I didn't think they were going to recover so much from the last race.
I told you, I called it, man. I saw Norris. I saw the look in his eyes on Friday, and he was like, "Yeah, it's time to win. It's time to get some points. Let's do it." To be fair, they were 53 seconds off Leclerc at the end of the race, so they're very far outside. But
Yeah,
they're a solid, constructor three, constructor four. If they can hold off,
be consistent.
yeah, if they can hold off a lot of good drivers and be consistent and
Daniel
don't
Ricciardo
make
was super
stupid
consistent.
risks.
Yeah,
Yeah, he
Daniel Ricciardo
was.
was super consistent this weekend. He scored a big chunk of points at his home race. So I think things are going to look a little brighter. I think hopefully they can kind of take whatever they did from last weekend to this weekend. I hope they can do that and keep improving.
And the last guy, my driver of the day, honestly, is Alex Albon. I don't think he didn't get picked for driver of the day, but going 56 laps or 56 or 57 laps on hard tires and pitting on the last lap and still staying in the points, that is extremely impressive. And I think that proves that Williams actually has the ability to have some kind of pace
Right.
and that their tire degradation is
It's
very
actually
light.
very good, right? Yeah.
If you watch the videos, the Williams cars do not porpoise nearly as much as the rest of them, which means they've pulled back on downforce, which helps those tires last longer.
Do you think maybe we'll see Williams kind of do this strategy again this season, where they're going to say, okay, well, if we stay on the hards with the low tire deg, then we're going to be set to just pit and get some sweet points at the end.
I think that this kind of strategy fell into their lap this race. I don't think they started out and said you're going to do one pit at the end of the race because I think they were really hoping for Latifi to crash so Albon could get in a free safety
Free
car,
safety
free
car.
pit, and
Yeah.
run out there again. But if Albon can continuously be consistent, it's going to be good for him. Latifi, on the other hand, they're gonna need a miracle for him to do good.
Yeah.
And he's a rich daddy driver. Williams gets a ton of money from Latifi's father. So if I don't know, maybe he'll just keep racing until the piggy bank runs dry. But I do not see him next year unless something crazy happens.
Yeah, and speaking of crazy things that actually happened, there were fans in the pit lane when Albon was exiting the pits. Did you see that?
Yeah, it was nuts. He was going in for the pit, and there were fans because it was the last lap. They were going in to start the celebration for the podium placement, and they had to be ushered back off of it while a race was still happening, and a
Good
Formula
lord.
One car was entering the pits at 80 miles an hour. I mean,
uh,
that would chop your freaking legs off, man.
yeah, absolutely. Well, those are our thoughts on the Australian GP. Join us for the next race.